Today, we're here at Salisbury Cathedral in the UK, and we're so fortunate to be with Dean Nicholas Papadopulos, who's been here for 8 years, right?
Seven years.
Yeah. Last time I was in Salisbury, I missed him, and everybody kept talking about your ministry. They admire what you're doing. And one of the things that Salisbury is famous for is, first of all, it's one of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world. So it's stunning architecturally. But among cathedral deans, it's famous for having girls in the choir. And maybe you can talk a little bit about what that's like and how that came to be, where girls began singing at Salisbury Cathedral.
Yeah, of course. It predates me by decades.
Yes.
Because girls have sung in the choir here since the very early 1990s, so more than 30 years. And it's difficult, in a sense, it's difficult for me to talk about it because it is so natural.
Normal,
it's inconceivable that we would not have a girls' choir. And my predecessors here had the vision that we would have girls singing on equal terms with boys. And so we have a girls' choir, we have a boys' choir, each of them sing an equal portion of services with the back row of the choir, and then on great occasions they sing together. And for us, that's the Salisbury sound, and we're really proud of it and of them.
Yeah, it's a great example, and I think it really has inspired a lot of cathedrals and other churches to move in that direction.
Well, that would be very nice to think so. Certainly, a couple of years ago we had a wonderful concert to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the choir, and to see the number of alumni of the girls' choir who came back for it and got up on stage to sing, and to hear the stories told. A couple of members of cathedral staff now are drawn from that first or second cohort of girl choristers, and so the impact it's had, I think, has been huge in terms of musical education, personal formation, growth. Wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the girls have been singing in Salisbury longer than the Church of England has been ordaining women.
Yeah.
And you're right; it has these cultural effects that you couldn't imagine.
Exactly.
And boys have been singing here for 500 years or something.
800
years.
and probably before that.
Yeah.
What I say to the choristers here, whenever I get the opportunity, really, is you're going to learn a few things here. One is that in a choir, above all, you learn that we are better together.
Yes,
they're all brilliant soloists, but actually put them together and the sound is fantastic. And that's so. What we do together is always bigger and brighter than what we do by ourselves. The other important thing, I think, is that the young choristers here, they start work early. They go home late. They don't get Christmas with their families. They work at weekends. In other words, I say to them, you are doing really serious work. And sadly, we inhabit a world which is quite addicted to the non-serious, to the very flashy, the very loud, the very impressive. But this is serious work that requires attention and diligence. And that's what we're sending you out with.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that if you can learn anything well, it's applicable to whatever else you're going to learn in your life. And it'll change your life.
Yeah.
And we had the same thing. We have choristers who come back in their 90s, because we've had a 90s, the whole time the cathedral, as long as we've had a foundation stone of the cathedral, we've had choristers. And that's what they tell us. Lifetime story, how music changed them. When you were young, you were a practicing lawyer, and one of the monuments I saw in Salisbury Cathedral memorialized a lawyer and a clergy person, the same person. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your own sense of calling. Like, how did you decide to switch directions, or was the law always kind of a way station on the way to doing something like this?
Oh, it's a really good question. I'm grateful for it. I was in my mid-20s, and I was living in London, working in London, and I was at that time I was in the habit of going to a midweek Eucharist at the parish church where I lived St Thomas's, Finsbury Park, in the shadow of the old Arsenal ground. And I went along one Wednesday evening, very, very regular occurrence, very ordinary evening. And in the course of a said Holy Communion that night, the voice of God filled my head, with 3 words: be a priest. And they filled me with indescribable joy. I've never been so thrilled at anything really before. And that was the start. So that was the start of the vocational journey. Obviously, the church tested whether that was the voice of God or whether that was my imagination or whatever, And I have to add, I'm not somebody who is given to hearing the voice of God in that way. This is a rare occurrence for me. But through the couple of years that followed, and going through the church's processes and structures, which sometimes do point us in the right direction, that's where I landed where I land. Now, I'm a great believer that nothing is ever wasted. So in my legal practice, I was a criminal lawyer, I was a criminal advocate, and I mostly acted for the defence. I mostly defended people, and I think I learned a huge amount. Firstly, an education in law teaches you a way of reading texts, which is very helpful. My first degree was in history. Historians and lawyers read things differently, so having 2 reading heads has always been useful when I've come to theology. Secondly, the core of my work was sitting with people who were in serious trouble. They were looking at prison sentences or whatever, and needing to be with them, be alongside them in an impactful fashion was a key bit of learning. And then lastly, as a barrister, as a criminal advocate, I was an advocate. It was my task to stand up and to plead a case, and that's not so very different from what priests do. We, as preachers, we're always advocates in a cause, aren't we?
We are. We're always making a point.
Yeah.
And I love that too. I look at society and all the ways that you can give your life, and I think that serving the church is a way that you can really make a difference. I mean, the church needs our help, and the church makes such a big difference in the lives of people. And I'm really grateful for your calling. I mean, it's a blessing to have you as a colleague, and I'm so glad. I mean, you did great ministry as a lawyer, and as you say, nothing's wasted. That's the striking thing.
Nothing's wasted, and also where I end up with this is that to be faithful to the person I'm becoming, and the God in whom I place my faith. This is the only thing I could do now is to serve as a priest in the church. I wouldn't be much good at anything else. And just in case that sounds absurdly pious, a very wise priest once said to me, "Look, the only people who God calls to ordination are those for whom there is no other means of salvation." Which I kind of like.
I do too. So tell me, I mean, as you look around the Church of England, what signs of hope do you see for the future?
Numbers, I mean, tell it not in Gath, but numbers are good. Salisbury Cathedral, this Easter, last Christmas, more people came than the year before, and more people came than the year before that. So people are coming to church. If we open our doors, if we offer worship that is serious, that isn't flamboyant or flippant, but is serious and is served by wonderful music, intelligent preaching, then people will come. I believe people will come. So I think that this to me is a sign of hope. So secondly, I think that certainly in cathedral ministry, people come to these places.
Yeah. Are you right? There's hundreds of people in there right now.
Absolutely. This morning, this morning, I spoke to a congregation of 800 primary school children,
Wow, yeah.
so aged 11,
Right.
coming here for a service to celebrate the end of primary school and get ready for going to secondary school. So these opportunities still exist for the church. We are still able to speak into the lives of men, women and children at crucial points of transition. That's a sign of hope. It's not to be neglected, forgotten or abused. And thirdly, I think we have a responsibility to help people to pray. And I don't believe that there's any lack of people wanting to pray. During the week or so after our late Queen died, the doors were open here for lighting of candles and the writing of messages in the Book of Condolence. And nearly all those messages were prayers. People might not have known that they were prayers, and there were thousands of them, and they came from 5 different continents, and I forget in how many different languages they were written, but they were nearly all prayers, expressing faith and hope in eternity.
Yes.
And so to suggest that the sense of God and an appreciation of the sacred is waning is to miss the mark.
Yeah, it reminds me of Friedrich Schleiermacher on speeches on religion, notes notes to its cultured despisers. Like there were cultural despisers in the year 1700, and there are cultured despisers in the year 2025, and the cultured despisers in 1700 thought that the church would just wither away, and it hasn't.
It hasn't. It hasn't, and it's not going to. It's not going to. We're not going anywhere.
Nick, well, thanks so much for having us here. I know the boys' choir is just delighted to be here and visiting, and I'm just grateful to have you as a colleague and for your ministry.
Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. So this is Nicholas Papadopulos at Salisbury Cathedral, and my name is Malcolm Clemens Young. I'm the Dean of Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, California. Thanks for watching. More good news.